This is Raju Rajagopal. I represent Hindus for Human Rights. For those of you not familiar with us, we are a recently started organization dedicated to speaking up for pluralism, both in the United States and India, and we advocate for the human rights of all communities. This morning, I would like to thank our partners, Indian American Muslim Council, Rashid and Ajit, who are not able to be with us today. We thank them for co-sponsoring this event. I would like to thank Global Indian Progressive Alliance, GPIA, Dr. Manish Madan, who is here with us for co-sponsoring. And from Delhi, I would like to thank our own Saptagiri Iyengar, who is on our board, and Akriti, who is on our advisory board, who are both members of a group in Delhi called PIGAM, who are working closely with migrant labor. And lastly, I would like to thank Ajaykumar from Kerala and the workers, and I'm waiting to hear their names when we get started. And my colleagues, Urmila, Kapil, and Shravya are behind the scenes controlling. Now, the topic of today, I'm sure I don't have to remind all of you about the horrific images that we have seen of the situation of migrant labor in India, many of them in a virtual purgatory. Over several weeks, we have seen many civil society groups trying to go to their aids because of a lack of cohesive national policy in India. Now, we can all feel sympathy for these folks that are the lifeblood of the Indian labor system. We can feel empathy. We can feel anger at what has happened to them. But I think we need to find ways of translating these emotions into something constructive. We have a lot of questions in our minds, as do people in India. Now, what happens to these millions of people once they get home when there is no work? They're with their family, but they don't know what the future holds for them. Will the society be kinder and gentler towards them after this experience? Or is it entirely possible that they will have even a harder time? Is this an opportunity for them to organize and bargain for better working conditions? Will they have a political base that speaks for them? I don't know the answers to these questions, and I think none of us know, but we are all part of the solution. Now, what we don't want to see, obviously, is circumstances coercing them to get back to business as usual. Now, it is to help understand the current situation and what the future may hold for them that we are bringing this two-part webinar conversation. And given how powerless some of us have felt as we have seen the horrific images, we have tried to design this conversation in two ways. One, to hear directly from those impacted during the pandemic and who struggle to survive even during the best of times. We bring the voices of several workers who are being gracious enough to share their stories, today from Kerala and tomorrow from Delhi. Secondly, we'll be hearing from advocates who have been working day and night during this pandemic to make sure that the most marginalized are cared for. Rights, which is the group in Kerala who are featured today, and PIGAM, which will be featured tomorrow, both work closely with not only migrant labor, but also with other laborers, and therefore have to be solution-oriented and forward-thinking in their work. Our overall goal for everyone participating is to have a real, not an abstract sense, thanks to first-person testimonies of how people are struggling, and what are some of the avenues forward in which we can collaborate or contribute individually or as groups in the coming changes to the labor scene in India. But I think one thing is for sure, there will be huge changes in the labor scene and we need to be part of that. Now, a few housekeeping items. We will be muting everyone except for the speakers. And it's extremely important that we do that so there is no static or other annoyances. We will allow people to ask their questions, keep it brief in the chat room. You can start typing anytime, but when the Q&A session comes up, one of our moderators will start asking questions from your chat room and direct it to one of the speakers. And Kapil, who is my colleague, will be the moderator today. So we have a wonderful lineup of on-the-ground speakers. We want ample time to interact, but we will try to wrap up in 1.5 hours. But we ask for your flexibility if it goes over. Thank you all for joining us today. And I would like to now hand over to Madan Manish of JIPA to introduce our guest today.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Raju, Sunita, the entire team of Hindus for Human Rights for organizing such an important and timely webinar. I know it's very important. We all get our news from different news sources, but hearing from people on the ground is unparalleled. So we really thank you for hosting it and also allowing us to partner on this important initiative. Ajaykumar, I'll introduce Ajaykumar. He is the founder and executive director of R.I.G.H.T.S, an NGO serving and empowering Dalit and Adivasi community in Kerala. Ajay is with a group of workers in Trivandrum, and his colleagues Raghu is also with a group of workers in Tiruvalla. So we first go to Trivandrum, and I will welcome the speaker on board. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Over to you, Ajay.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. My role at this evening limited to introduce my colleagues here. And if there is anything to add, I'll add a little later. Let us first hear from the workers from the different part. Let me introduce them first. We have with us Dilip Roy from West Bengal and Ajibar Ali from Assam and Gurudesh Oral from Bihar. And these three people whom I know since the lockdown, I have hear their stories. Not only these three people, we are working with the migrant workers across the state. So let us first hear what they want to say. And I think instead of Vijay, I think there are a set of questions you should be asking in the end of the conversation, right?
They can narrate their story briefly. It's about how their life has been affected due to this lockdown and from where they have been reaching help. And that should be able to sum up their individual stories.
Okay, so they will be speaking in English. They'll be speaking in Hindi. So the group need a translation.
Yes, it's mostly an English-speaking group, so it will be helpful if you could condense it and translate it.
Yeah, I'll do a summary of what they speaks. The other group from Kerala, they are struggling to join with this net because of the low connectivity. They could not able to join yet, but I asked to keep trying. So let us see. Let us hope after by the end of this session they are able to join. So sure. I'll be asking first friend Dilip Roy from West Bengal to speak. कैमरा क्यों
बोला तो नहीं था अभी कुछ रहेगा
can speak. Hello. अब बात कर सकते हैं. Hello. Sir, good morning.
Sir, my name is Dilip Roy. My
हिंदी में
हमारा घर है वेस्ट बंगाल. हम लोग सर इधर केरल में लॉकडाउन में फंस गया है. तो लॉकडाउन में 60 डेज तक काम भी नहीं हुआ. हम लोग का घर में बीवी है, बच्चा है, पिताजी है, वो माता जी है, उन लोग के लिए तो हम लोग हेल्प भी नहीं किया। इधर आके हम लोग लॉकडाउन में पड़ गया, खाने के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो गया, वो बच्चे के लिए पढ़ाई के लिए मुश्किल हो गया। अभी थोड़ा बहुत काम चल रहा है, लेकिन हम लोग अभी नहीं जा सकता है। अभी तो बाहर का उधर भी बहुत वायरस ज़्यादा हो गया वेस्ट बंगाल में, इसलिए हम लोग इधर थोड़ा बहुत काम चल रहा है, तो हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं। और क्या बताइए?
ओके ओके।
आप क्या काम करते थे भैया?
सर हम लोग इधर वो और बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम कर रहे हैं, बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन का।
राइट। और अभी आपका गुजारा कैसे हो रहा है खाने पीने के लिए?
तो खाने पीने वो थोड़ा बहुत हफ्ता में 2 दिन 3 दिन काम चल रहा है, वो चलता है इसे। हम लोग को घर में भी पैसा भेज नहीं सकता है, हाँ, सिर्फ इधर वो खा के जी सकते हैं इसे।
बिल्कुल। और आप लोग घर वापस जाने का नहीं सोचे, आप बता रहे थे।
सर वो कोई कोई जाएगा, लेकिन हम तो जाने के लिए नहीं सोचा, ये घर जाके क्या करेगा। हाँ, उधर भी वायरस भी ज़्यादा है, उधर भी काम नहीं है। हाँ, तो फैमिली को हमको देखना पड़ेगा इधर ही। हाँ, इधर केरल में भी उतना ज़्यादा वो वायरस नहीं है। तो घर जाके तो हम लोग को तो और बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा, इसलिए सोच रहे इधर ही थोड़ा काम करके हम लोग रह सकते हैं।
और आपको आपको लगता है कि अगले 2-3 महीने में आप लोग जिंदगी कैसे गुजार पाएंगे? आपको लगता है कि दोबारा काम आपको वापस मिल जाएगा पूरा हफ्ते भर का?
तो हफ्ता भर का तो काम मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, वो तो मालूम नहीं है सर। अभी जैसे लॉकडाउन चल रहा है, वो मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, वो तो हम लोग बता नहीं सकता है।
मैं आप
जैसे
जो बोले
लॉकडाउन
वो
जा रहा
अंग्रेजी
है।
में एक बार बता देता हूँ।
ओके सर।
So Dilip Roy hails from West Bengal, and he has been sharing with us that he and his family friends have been living here. Since the lockdown, they have been affected severely. They have lost their major source of livelihood, which was construction work. Now they are able to spend get work like twice or thrice a week. Some of them decided to go back to their families in West Bengal. Others did not choose because of the widespread virus in West Bengal. And there's also a cyclone situation, so they choose to stay back in Kerala. भैया आपसे आप सरकार से क्या उम्मीद रखते हैं अभी?
सर हम लोग तो सरकार से क्या मत करेगा, हम लोग को थोड़ा हेल्प करने के लिए इसे ये बोला था। हम लोग को तो अभी वो गांव में भी ऐसे ही चल रहा है, वो खाने के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है। काम नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, ऐसे तो जिंदगी चल रहा है ऐसे ही।
और घर में बात कब कब हो जाती है आपकी?
घर में तो बात सर वो फोन में तो बात होता है, हफ्ता में 2 3 दिन 4 दिन ऐसे होता है। डैडी में मेरा डैडी भी वो घर में बीमार है, चल नहीं सकता है। वो डैडी के लिए भी मेडिसिन डेली देना पड़ता है,
जी,
पैरालिसिस।
मैं बस
तो
अनुवाद कर देता हूँ इतना. He also says that back home in the village also, if they go back, there are no options for livelihood back there also. So even if they get travel, it's not a long-term solution for them. He also says that they're able to connect to their families once in 3-4 days, but not very regularly. And they choose to stay back because right now choosing to stay back in Kerala would give them better livelihood options. आपके दोस्त लोग कुछ बताना चाहेंगे अपनी कहानी?
ओ बताना चाहेंगे सर, थोड़ा बात कीजिए।
जी.
मेरा नाम है अजूर अली।
नमस्ते भैया।
इधर आया है हम लोग 4 महीना हो गया। लॉकडाउन में बहुत दिन से फंस गए इधर आके। हम लोग का काम धाम कुछ नहीं है इधर। इधर भी
और
बहुत
आप क्या
प्रॉब्लम
काम
चल रहा
करते
है।
थे भैया?
हम लोग भाई शटरिंग का काम करता है, वेल्डिंग का काम करता है।
जी। और आपके परिवार आपके साथ में नहीं रहता है?
नहीं, अभी मेरा परिवार गांव पे है। इधर हम लोग आके काम करने के लिए आया केरला में। गांव में
जी।
भी आए, अभी बहुत प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है। उधर भी बांध पानी चल रहा है अभी वो।
राइट। मैं आपका बात अनुवाद कर देता हूँ एक बार अंग्रेजी में दर्शकों के लिए। Ajay Baroli also hails from Assam, and he has also been here since 4 months and has been stuck in lockdown. He does the job of a welder, uh, uh, and his family is back in the village. So he says that he's been facing difficulties due to the lockdown in terms of livelihood. भैया आपका खाने का इंतजाम कहाँ से हो जाता है?
सब हम लोग के इधर 2-3 दिन, एक हफ्ते में 2 दिन काम करता है, वही खाना पीना होता है। लेकिन घर पे तो कुछ नहीं होता है ना सर। घर पे हम लोग का कुछ नहीं होता है। इधर से हम लोग देगा तो उसको घर पे वो लोग आराम से खाना पीना हो सकता है। लेकिन हम लोग के
जी
इधर से लॉकडाउन में फंस गया।
जी। So he's been saying that his family back home also is dependent on their income for food. So because of the lockdown, they haven't been able to send incomes. So it has affected their families back home as well as themselves here. भैया राशन कार्ड से आपको नहीं मिलता है गांव में?
गाँव में सब मिलता है, रेशन कार्ड में है, मिलता है।
तो
लेकिन
महीने
सब
का
खाली
कितना मिल जाता होगा उसमें?
महीना में 20 किलो चावल मिलता है।
जी। तो बाकी सारा आपका बच्चों के लिए पढ़ाई वगैरह वो सब आपकी बात कर रहे हैं कि नहीं हो पा रहा है?
और ये अभी छोटा छोटा 2 भैया है, उसको भी पढ़ाई करने का है, सबको ये करने का है।
जी।
तो
तो
ये
केरला
मेरा
में सरकार
मेरा
की
काम
तरफ
से चल रहा है। लेकिन मेरा तो काम नहीं है सब। अभी मेरा तो काम नहीं है, मेरा काम से चलता है वो लोग का घर पे सब कुछ। अभी इधर तो सब हम लोग का लॉकडाउन में सब फंस गया आके। इसके लिए घर पे भी बहुत प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है, हम लोग का भी बहुत प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है इधर।
जी। और आप लोगों का स्वास्थ्य के बारे में कुछ दिक्कत तो नहीं है फिलहाल? आपके जान पहचान में कोई है जिनके स्वास्थ्य खराब हुआ है हाल ही में?
ऐसे तो कुछ नहीं है। हम लोग के इधर बहुत चेकअप हो गया, मेडिकल चेकअप हो गया इधर हम लोग का।
अच्छा। So he is communicating that he and his friends have been tested for medical checkups, and in terms of health, they are not having any issues currently. But the livelihood still remains a major point of concern. आपके तीसरे दोस्त से हम अभी कुछ बात कर सकते हैं, अगर वो कुछ कहना चाहते हैं तो।
हेलो सर, नमस्ते। मेरा नाम है
हेलो,
गुरदास।
नमस्ते भैया जी।
मेरा नाम है गुरदास सुरत। मैं बिहार का
और
हूँ।
कहाँ से है भैया आप?
बिहार,
जी।
जिला
आप केरला
किशनगंज।
कब आप केरला कब आए भैया?
सर मैं लॉकडाउन से पहले आया था, नवंबर में आया था।
Acha. So Gurudas has traveled from Bihar to Kerala in November, and since then he has been here, and he hails from Bihar. आपका परिवार कहाँ रहता है?
घर में है, बिहार में भी।
और उनसे बातचीत हो पाती है आपकी?
बातचीत होता है अभी।
और आप क्या काम करते हैं?
बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन का।
अभी कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम करते हैं। घर में और कौन कौन रहते हैं भैया गांव में, आपके परिवार में?
परिवार में अभी 3 आदमी है। और मेरा मम्मी है और बहन है और मैं मैरिज हूँ, मेरा बीवी है।
अच्छा। So he has 3 people in his family: his mother, his mom, and himself. आखिर में आप कुछ बताना चाहेंगे भैया हमारे दर्शकों को, या फिर आपका कुछ सरकार की तरफ आप कुछ बताना चाहेंगे कि हम बात पहुंचा सके, या ऐसा कुछ आपकी जो इच्छा है जाने से पहले?
जी सर, इच्छा तो बहुत है, लेकिन इच्छा को क्या कर सकेंगे? अभी परिस्थिति ऐसा चल रहा है, इसमें तो कुछ कर नहीं सकते ना।
जी, बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया भैया।
There is
अजय,
a question from the chat. So
या
Ms. Halima Khan wants to ask. I'll directly translate into Hindi. अगर आपके पास चॉइस हो कि आप अपने फैमिली को अपने गांव से यहाँ लाएं केरला में, तो क्या आप वो करना चाहेंगे?
नहीं सर, अभी केरला में लाएंगे तो वो गाँव में ठीक है।
गांव में ही ठीक है। अच्छा। और जो आपको राशन दे रही है केरला में सरकार या जो भी संस्था, क्या आप उससे संतुष्ट हैं कि आपको उसमें कुछ खामी नजर आती है?
संतोष है सर।
संतुष्ट है, धन्यवाद।
भैया एक आखिरी सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ आपसे। पहले अनुवाद कर देता हूँ। So we asked him if he would like to move his family back to with him to Kerala, and his response was he would prefer his family to stay back in the village. And he seems pretty. We also asked him how was his feedback with respect to the programs that government has been running for them, and he says that it has been satisfactory. भैया ऐसा देश में मानते हैं कि बाकी सारे राज्यों के मुताबिक अगर हम लोग तुलना करें तो केरला काफी अच्छा काम कर रही है लोगों के लिए, ऐसा बाहर दुनिया मानती है, देश में भी लोग मानते हैं। तो आपका कुछ अपना अनुभव इससे कुछ विपरीत है कि आपको भी ऐसा लगता है कि आपका ध्यान रखा गया है?
ये सर, मैं इतना दिन रह चुका हूँ, मेरे को कुछ तकलीफ नहीं हुआ, लेकिन हाँ, केरला सरकार अच्छे से ध्यान रखे।
So he says, I asked him what does he feel about people telling that Kerala is considered to be doing better off with respect to other states, and he says his personal experience also from what he's been hearing around is also reflects that, but at the same time livelihood is still a valid concern like for everyone else in the country. Ajay, I would like you to take over and probably give your views on the issues and highlight the plight of the people in Kerala.
Yeah, I thank you, Vijay. I always experience this. You know, the workers are most generous people. Even though at the worst time, they will not tell you uh, what is actually happening to them. And I really felt that, you know, as they are sitting with them, I am talking them almost on a daily basis. Uh, but even still, I felt that, you know, they think Kerala doing better because they have given, you know, meals twice in a day. And that generosity of the state made them to make a statement that, you know, everything is great here. I don't really agree with that, but I don't want to contradict what you know, all our workers said. I have a different opinion about this. Now, regarding because, you know, I personally dealing with some of their family issues, the issues related to children's fees not being paid, the medicines not being bought, food not being supplied, and they actually worried about everything, every bit happening back their village. Every migrant worker, including this group, there are actually 22 people working, you know, working together and staying together in a place. Out of 22 people, in my understanding, 15 of them given application a month ago to go back. but that has been not being sanctioned so far. Am I right, Dilip? 15 लोग अभी application दिया ना वापस जाने के लिए. Yes, because then I help them to prepare the applications. So I think the migrants who are died when they walk, the migrants who are died in the railway track, the migrants who are died, all these incidents indicate. Now I have basically 3 points to make. One is, every migrant I met during this crisis, and that's an eye opener for me also, being a activist. Every migrant I met, either a Dalit or an Adivasi or a Muslim, and few OBCs. I haven't met no other migrant who are from a different social location. I think that will tell you the real story. When we put everything into a basket of the labor or the migrant labor, we actually miss a crucial aspect, and why this country treating these people so differently. I think the answer lays their social location. In my understanding, this state has been committing one of the largest atrocities against most marginalized and vulnerable people in the country. And we actually, it's a time to talk about, let us say, it's not just the labor. They are the Adivasis of Jharkhand. They are the Muslims of the West Bengal. They are the Dalits from the Bihar. And these aspects, somehow, even including the activist circle, we are hiding. So it's a time to speak up all these things. And more importantly, now Assam having the flood, and some of the friends, the migrant friends, migrant friends, worried about it. And there are 3 districts has been affected by the latest cyclone, and people are worried about, because none of them, those migrants from these areas are not able to actually contact their family members. So who will be this issue, the question of social location, and who will be going to compensate their lost labor? 60 days is a matter, and how long, the loss they have suffered, somebody has to measure it. Instead of saying that, let us give 5 kg rice, that doesn't work anymore. If they actually want to, stand their own feet, the state has to do more. And third aspect, if any migrant worker actually want to go back to their state, there has to be a system of transportation. And if somebody want to go and meet their family and they want to come back, there has to be a system. So we should at least now talk about the compensation. There are 312 people just died on the road, in the railway track. And we not even know the names. Forget about. They become just numbers.
Ajay,
so
there is
we have
Ajay,
the responsibility to raise all these things at a national level. Yeah, I stop here. Yeah.
Ajay, there's a question from chat by Dr. Madan. So he's asking basically, how are they able to afford their rents? Are their landlords giving them any concessions? And how are their employers trying to help them?
What the builders, most of the construction work, most of them are engaged in construction workers. They are not charging rent, but the workers have been told that when the work they resume the work, they will deduct the rent from their wage. This is the arrangement. In fact, the builder is not giving any concession, but they, for the time being, there. But even the first day of the work, they now they resume the work in last 4 days, I think. The first day itself, they start cutting from the wage. So they actually not giving anything. Even though there was a government direction from Kerala government, there's a direction should not pay, don't force any migrant workers to pay their rents.
Okay, basically that means they are under debt.
Yes, yes, and I know that there are construction companies that have been given strict order saying that if you want to go, you go, but you will not get your work when you come back. Your job you lost. So many people stay back. The reason why, because they won't. When you come, then they come back. There is no surety of their job. And second, they are more worried about the family back in their village.
One question from Mr. Kashwan for Ajaykumar. So do you think the workers themselves realize that their social class is tied to their miseries? Do they have like a collective identity and larger understanding of the social mechanisms behind this?
I not really get into that kind of conversation, but I know that their social locations, after we start working with each group, when we having conversation, then only they actually talks about all these things.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Thank you, Ajay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Madan, can you take us to another part of Kerala, please? Thank you. Thank to all the people that spoke, and we'll have more questions for them later.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ajay-ji. From the Rights organization, there was a question on the chat here. Just so everyone knows, Ajaykumar is the founder of Rights, serving Dalits and Adivasis, and he's also a partner of Hindus for Human Rights. So we thank you so much for sharing and also bringing aboard the laborers and the migrants who we were able to hear firsthand. Please convey our thanks to them also on our behalf, everyone. Next online we have from Kerala, right? So I'm trying to find
group. The other group from Kerala is already joined, the bamboo workers.
Right. Right. So next.
His name is Rekhu.
Okay, so do we have them aboard here?
Can you unmute Rekhu's microphone?
Okay. Kapil, I think we need to unmute somebody.
Raghu, Eravi Peru,
yes,
they are already unmuted.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Raghu, you can speak now.
I think they need to accept.
Okay, the next speaker, please unmute your mic so you are able to be, we can hear you.
Raghu, can you unmute?
Okay, I unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay, you can speak now.
ബാംബു വർക്കേഴ്സിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് 3 പേരുണ്ട് നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ കോവിഡുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ഇഷ്യൂവിനകത്ത് നമ്മുടെ മുഴുവൻ ആക്ടിവിറ്റീസ് ആണ് നിന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞു.
തന്നെയല്ല വർക്ക് തുടർന്നുകൊണ്ട് പോകാനുള്ള ഒരു വലിയ പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. വളരെ മോശപ്പെട്ട അവസ്ഥയിൽ ജീവിക്കുന്ന ആളുകളാണ് ഒന്നാമത്. രണ്ട്, ഈ ബാംബുവിലേക്ക് വന്നപ്പോ വലിയ പ്രതീക്ഷ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അക്കാര്യത്തില് ഒരുപാട് ഒരു സാധ്യത ജീവിതത്തിൽ തെളിഞ്ഞു വന്നിരുന്നു അവർക്ക്. എന്നാല് ഈ കോവിഡ് വന്നതിന് ശേഷം ഒരു വർക്കും അത് സംബന്ധിച്ച് നടക്കുന്നില്ലെന്ന് തന്നെയല്ല, നമുക്ക് മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകാൻ മാർക്കറ്റിങ്ങിന്റെ വരെ അത് ഈ വസ്തുക്കൾ വിൽക്കുന്നതിനുള്ളൊരു സാധ്യത പോലും ഇപ്പോൾ നിലനിൽക്കുന്നില്ല യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ. പിന്നെ ഒരു സ്മോൾ സ്കെയിൽ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി പോലെ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത്, നമുക്ക് ഒന്നിച്ചു വരുന്നതിന് 10-12 പേര് ഒരു സെന്ററിൽ ഉണ്ടാവും. ഒന്നിച്ചു വരുന്നതിനുള്ളൊരു പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. മാത്രമല്ല ഈ റോ മെറ്റീരിയൽസ് കിട്ടുന്നതിനകത്തും അത് ശേഖരിക്കുന്നതിനകത്തുള്ളൊരു വലിയ പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. ഇത്തരം ഇഷ്യൂസ് ഒന്ന് നമ്മുടെ അടുത്തടുത്ത ആളുകളാണ് ഇതിനകത്ത് വരുന്നത്, കോളനീസിലെ ആളുകളാണ്. വളരെ വളരെ
ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യട്ടെ.
ഓക്കെ.
Yeah, let me translate what Raghu said. His name is Raghu. He is joining from us, joining from the Tiruvalla, one of the central part of Kerala, with the bamboo workers. The bamboo workers is actually completely out of work for last 60 days. And he's basically saying that they actually started this project of bamboo craft after the 2018 flood as a new livelihood option. They have been given training, rights also involved in that process. In the month of November 2019, we have started the women from the villages, and they went through a rigorous training of 3 months. We are able to actually figure out a place to start the production, and they start the production, and they actually about to hit the market with the producers. Then the lockdown started. So let us hear from the workers now. Raghu, അവർ സംസാരിക്കട്ടെ.
ഇവിടെ നോക്കിയിട്ട് നിശ്ചയം. Hello, welcome.
I think we may have lost Raghu because his video is also frozen.
Hello.
We'll wait for connection to be restored from Raghu.
In the meanwhile, while we are waiting for Raghu's connection, if there are questions people have for the previous conversation, please do put in the chat. The moderators will take those questions. We might be back now.
While we are waiting, Mr. Ajaykumar, perhaps you can continue the story of the bamboo workers, and hopefully they will join us, but perhaps you can fill in and tell us a little bit more about them while we are waiting.
Yes, we try our level best to actually get a new data connection today. And that's a new story. The data, the cost of the data actually 100%, 150% hiked, and in a post lockdown scenario here. But unfortunately, we could not able to hear that woman. If I speak from the Kerala experience, the 2018 and 2019 we had a larger flood, which affect at least 10 out of 14 districts in Kerala. And those, if you look at little more closely, those affected by the flood, those who are living in the next to the water bodies and the mountains, those who are affected by the landslides and all. And there is a kind of, again, there is a social location issue. In fact, Dalits and Adivasis actually, more than double of their population. If you look at the percentage of those who are affected by these natural calamities itself, saying that they have a kind of different, no, more than their almost double the size of their population size actually affected, and in fact they lost every bit of their life. So whatever they have doing from 2019 onwards to basically cope up with the situation, the moment they realize that only the one or two person in the family work, they cannot move forward. There are a large number of actually women actually start working like bamboo workers. I
And
can
I
see,
think Raghu
you
is
can
back.
see the people
Yeah,
there now.
they are back. If they would
Yeah,
like to
the
say
back.
Let
anything.
us speak. Dekho, അവരോട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ പറയോ?
ഓക്കെ, സംസാരിക്കാം. ഇതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ സുമ സംസാരിക്കും.
ബാംബുവിന്റെ ട്രെയിനിങ് സെന്റർ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോഴത്തേക്കിനെ പുതിയൊരു പ്രതീക്ഷയോടുകൂടിയാണ് നമ്മൾ ബാംബുവിന്റെ ട്രെയിനിങ് ആരംഭിച്ചത്. വർക്കുകൾ കൂടുതൽ പഠിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഞങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ സെയിലായി പോകുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഈ ഒരു ലോക്ക്ഡൌൺ സമയമായപ്പോഴത്തേക്കിന് പെട്ടെന്ന് അത് ഡൗൺ ആവുകയും ഈ ഒരു കൊണ്ടുവന്ന ഒരു പുതിയ പ്രതീക്ഷ നഷ്ടപ്പെടുകയാണ് ചെയ്തത്. അപ്പം എല്ലാവരും സാധാരണ ജനങ്ങളാണ്. അന്നന്ന് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞു പോകുന്ന ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഇടയിലേക്ക് ഇങ്ങനൊരു സാഹചര്യം വന്നു ചേർന്നപ്പോഴത്തേക്കിന് ഇനി ഒരു മുന്നോട്ടൊരു പോക്കിനെ പറ്റി വലിയൊരു ആശങ്ക മുന്നിക്കുകയാണ്. സാഹചര്യങ്ങൾ കൂടുതൽ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകളിലേക്ക് പോകുന്ന ഒരവസരമാണിത്. അപ്പം ഇതൊരു വീണ്ടും പുനരാരംഭിച്ചില്ല എന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിലെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകളും പ്രയാസങ്ങളും കൂടുതലായിട്ട് മുന്നോട്ട് വരികയാണ്. അപ്പൊ ആ ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കൂടുതൽ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് ഞങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങള് വിറ്റഴിഞ്ഞു പോകുന്നതിനും മാർഗം ശരിയായി കിട്ടുവാണെങ്കിൽ ഞങ്ങളെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് അതൊരു വലിയൊരു കാര്യമായിരിക്കും. ഓരോ ദിവസങ്ങൾ ചെല്ലുന്തോറും കൂടുതൽ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകളിലേക്ക് പോയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക ഈ ഒരു സാഹചര്യം. കൂടുതൽ അസുഖങ്ങൾക്കാർ തിരിച്ച് നാട്ടിലെത്തുന്ന ഈ ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ വെളിയിലോട്ട് ഇറങ്ങാൻ മേലാത്തൊരവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് വന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. അപ്പൊ ഈ ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് തന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ പഠിച്ച ഈ ഒരു ജോലി വീണ്ടും പുനരാരംഭിക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ അത് എത്രയും പെട്ടെന്ന് സാധിക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ അത് ഏറ്റവും നല്ലതായിരിക്കും. കാരണം ഞങ്ങൾ 12 പേരുണ്ട് ഞങ്ങളുടെ സെന്ററിൽ. അത്രയും പേര് കൂട്ടമായിട്ടിരുന്ന് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു വർക്കാണ്. ഓക്കെ സർ. Okay.
Yeah, Suma, she is actually leading the group, the women's group in the bamboo center there in Tiruvalla. She's saying that we started this effort with such a big hope, and everything was ready, and we actually start getting orders for our products. We start working on it. And now everything went down. So the point she's making is, if she's not able to, she said, not only me, everybody who part of this effort of bamboo craft making are from the ordinary Dalit families. If you are not resume this work immediately, it is almost extremely difficult to survive. Survive in terms of their family, survive in terms of the effort, the energy they have put for almost 6 months. So that's the basic point she making. Suma, ini തുടർന്നോളൂ. Suma.
Yes, sir. ഈ ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തില് കൂടുതലായിട്ട് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ നേരിടും. അതായത് വെള്ളപ്പൊക്കം വരുന്നു, പകർച്ചവ്യാധികൾ ഉണ്ടാകുന്നു, വീണ്ടും ദുരിതത്തിൽ നിന്ന് അടുത്ത ദുരിതത്തിലേക്കാണ് പോയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്.
Yeah, Suma saying that we had the first flood, then we have our second flood, and now we have this COVID, and there was an information from the government that next week there will be a heavy rains. So our life become a kind of a constant journey to one disaster to another disaster.
So Ajay, one question from me. So basically, what I understand is it's not just that the demand for their products, the bamboo products, has fallen. It's also the supply chain that has fallen. It's completely broken down. Is it true?
No, it is basically the market. The supply chain is a local one.
Okay, so are they dependent on middlemen?
No, they actually, the design was, avoid middleman. They have to sell it directly.
Or do they have cooperatives, for example, in Gujarat, the milk cooperatives and all?
They actually in the there was the process of registering this group as a company. Producers company, yeah.
All right.
Suma, ini വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ? I think she made that last point. I don't know how to respond to that.
കോവിഡിന്റെ കാലം ഇപ്പോഴും നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. വിദേശത്തു നിന്ന് ആൾക്കാർ വരുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് രോഗം വീണ്ടും വീണ്ടും ഓരോ സ്ഥലങ്ങളിൽ വ്യാപിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് പുറത്തിറങ്ങാൻ പറ്റാത്ത ഒരു സ്ഥിതിയാണ്. പിന്നെ വീട്ടിലിരുന്ന് ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ ഞങ്ങള് മൊത്തം എല്ലാരും അവിടെവിടായിട്ടിരുന്ന് ചെയ്യണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പിന്നെ മെഷീന്റെ അപാകതയുണ്ട്. എല്ലാവരുടെയും വീട്ടിൽ മെഷീൻ കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. മെഷീൻ സെന്ററിലുള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് ഒന്നിച്ചിരുന്നേ ചെയ്യാനും പറ്റത്തില്ല. അപ്പൊ അതും ഈ രോഗമുള്ളത് കൊണ്ട് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിട്ട് എല്ലാരും ഇപ്പൊ വീട്ടിൽ തന്നെ ഇരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിൻ്റെതായിട്ടുള്ള ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടും വീടിന്റെ സാഹചര്യവും ഞങ്ങളുടെ കഴിഞ്ഞു പോകുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യമുണ്ട്. വീട്ടിലാരും പണിക്ക് പോകാതെയും എല്ലാരും അതിന് അടയ്ക്കപ്പെട്ടവരെ പോലെ ഇരിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെതായിട്ടുള്ള ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട്, ജീവിത സാഹചര്യം വളരെ കഷ്ടത്തിലാണ്.
ഇതിലെ അവര് ചോദിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യം, നമുക്കിപ്പോ സർക്കാരിന്റെ മുന്നിൽ വെക്കാവുന്ന എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡിമാൻഡുകളുണ്ടോ? എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡിമാൻഡ് നമ്മുടെ ഭാഗത്തുനിന്നുണ്ടോ ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ മുന്നിൽ?
ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി മാർക്കറ്റിംഗ് കണ്ടെത്തണം. ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ഭാഗത്തുനിന്ന് ഞങ്ങളിപ്പം വീട്ടിലിരിക്കുവല്ലേ, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ട സഹായങ്ങള് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്.
Okay, she basically pointing that the bamboo work is basically a collective work. It's a group work. So it is not possible to individually work at home, and we don't have machineries to do such work. And the second point she making is it is the government responsibility to intervene and make sure the market and work has to be open up and resume immediately. And because of they lost their jobs and the working days for many months now, that has to be she didn't ask compensate, but government look into that.
Okay, so Dr. Madan is asking a question that he's basically wondering. I don't think this is a question to laborers. Basically, it's a question to the community. What can we do to help them? For example, can we like popularize their products on Facebook, etc., or are there any avenues so that people can like directly order their products? Do they know of unconventional ways to sell their products, like sell them directly on, let's say, Amazon or Flipkart or many of these internet delivery companies which can bypass the traditional supply chains?
Okay. ഇവര് ചോദിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാധനം നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഗവൺമെന്റിനോട് പറയാം, ഈ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എന്നുള്ള നിലയ്ക്ക് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിനോട് എന്താണ് ആവശ്യപ്പെടാനുള്ളത്. അതായത് നിങ്ങളുടെ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റുകള് വിൽപ്പനയ്ക്ക് ഇവരുടെ സഹായം നിങ്ങൾ ആവശ്യപ്പെടുന്നുണ്ടോ, അതോ മറ്റ് മാർഗങ്ങളിലൂടെ വിൽപ്പനയ്ക്കുള്ള ശ്രമമാണോ നിങ്ങൾ നടത്തുന്നത്, സാധാരണ വിൽപ്പന അല്ലാതെ?
ഫേസ്ബുക്ക് വഴി എല്ലാവർക്കും പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുന്ന രീതിയിൽ സഹായിക്കണമെന്നുള്ളതാണ് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നത്. ഫേസ്ബുക്ക് വഴി ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇതെല്ലാം വിറ്റഴിക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു വിപണി കണ്ടെത്തണം.
She's saying that, we don't know this way or that way, but the product has to be, it should be in the market, and it should be sold. So
yeah, I think probably
that's
it's
the point.
our responsibility to popularize their products. And in fact, there is probably an opportunity here because there are a lot of middle class white collar people in India's big cities who are working from home and who need extra furniture in their homes to work from home, right? But probably they do not know about these people who actually need their products to be sold.
Yes.
Ajay, does Raghu want to say anything before we wrap this up?
Yeah, രഘുവിന് എന്തെങ്കിലും സംസാരിക്കാനുണ്ടോ?
അതിനകത്ത് ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് ഒരു ചെറിയ കാര്യങ്ങളാണുള്ളത്. ഒന്ന്, ഈ പുതിയൊരു കോവിഡാനന്തര കാലഘട്ടത്തില് നമ്മൾ ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു പാരിസ്ഥിതികമായ ഒരു വശമുണ്ട്. നമ്മൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ഉൽപ്പന്നം ഏതാണ്ട് ഈ മുഴുവൻ മനുഷ്യരും ഉപയോഗിക്കത്തക്കവണ്ണം ഒരു കാലഘട്ടമാണ് കടന്നു വരുന്നത് പല രൂപത്തിൽ. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു നാച്ചുറൽ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് എന്ന നിലയിൽ ആ ഒരു വാല്യൂ തന്നെ അതിനെ കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് ലോകത്താകമാനം നമുക്കത് വിൽപ്പന നടത്തുന്ന ഒരു സാധ്യതയുണ്ട്. അതിന് ഏതൊക്കെ ഏജൻസികളാണോ അത്തരം തരത്തിൽ നമുക്കത് ഗവൺമെന്റ് തന്നെയല്ല എല്ലാ വിധത്തിലുള്ള ഏജൻസികളുടെ ഒരു നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇക്കാര്യത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടായാൽ നല്ലതാണ്. ഒന്ന് ഈ ഒരു പാരിസ്ഥിതിക അവയർനെസ്സും കൂടി ഇതിനകത്ത് ആഡ് ചെയ്താൽ അത് കൂടുതൽ വാല്യൂബിൾ ആയിട്ട് പോകും. യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ അങ്ങനെയാണ്. രണ്ട്, ഗവൺമെന്റ് യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ ഈ കേരളത്തിൽ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇതുവരെ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടില്ല. പിന്നെ ഇത് ആളുകളെ രസിപ്പിച്ച് വാങ്ങിക്കുന്നതാണ്, പക്ഷെ ഇത് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ഉൽപ്പന്നമായിട്ട് മാറിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അത്തരം ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ വീട്ടുകളിലേക്കും ഗവൺമെന്റ് തന്നെ വലിയൊരു കച്ചവട വാങ്ങിക്കുന്ന ആളുകൾ ബോറോവേഴ്സ് ആണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അവരുടെ മുഴുവൻ ഓഫീസുകളിൽ അവരുടെ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളില് തന്നെ ഇത് മേടിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മുടെ 75% ആളുകൾക്കും ആ രൂപത്തില് അവരുടെ 75% പ്രോഡക്റ്റും അങ്ങനെ പോകുന്നതാണ്. ഗവൺമെന്റ് അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇതിനകത്ത് അത് വാങ്ങിക്കാനുള്ളൊരു സെയിൽ ചെയ്യാനുള്ളതും പുറത്തേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോകാനുള്ളതും ഒരു സാധ്യത ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ഭാഗത്തുനിന്ന് ഉണ്ടാവാൻ പറ്റും. ഈ രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങളും യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ അടിയന്തരമായിട്ട് ഈ മേഖല ഉണ്ടാകണം. മൂന്നാമത്തെ, ഈ റോ മെറ്റീരിയൽ യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ ബാംബു കേരളത്തിൽ ധാരാളം ഉണ്ട്. നമുക്ക് അത് ലഭ്യമാക്കുന്ന ഒരു സംവിധാനം, സുശക്തമായൊരു സംവിധാനം ഇല്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് വനത്തിൽ നിന്ന് വെട്ടുന്ന ഇടപാടുണ്ട്, പിന്നെ ബാംബു കോർപ്പറേഷന് കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ നമ്മളിപ്പോ ഒരു സൊസൈറ്റി വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് കൃത്യമായി ഇത് ലഭ്യമാകുന്നുള്ളൊരു സംവിധാനം യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ കേരളത്തില് സുതാര്യമായി നിലനിൽക്കുന്നില്ല. അത് റോ മെറ്റീരിയൽസിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ ഒരു എൻഷുർ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്.
Let me translate the point made by Rikhu. Rikhu has been working with the bamboo workers for a long time now. He's associating with rights also. He was the first president of the Bamboo Workers Federation in Kerala. So he is very experienced in this sector. So he made 3 points. One is a post-COVID period, because the bamboo work as recognized as the mitigation of the larger context of the many issues of the climate change. A post-COVID period, government and the companies and the society at large need to actually start purchasing, because our product is not a kind of a craft product. We are basically producing household and office equipments, and the on we producing things which is being used by people on a daily basis. So government has the responsibility to popularize this product, and the companies and the community should buy and help this community first. And third point, there are, though the bamboo is available plenty in Kerala, there are issues sourcing bamboo for the bamboo work. We still completely depending on the local area of sourcing bamboo, but that has still have some legal issues. So that the government need to interfere and make sure that there is a plenty supply of the bamboo for the workers.
Thank you, Ajay. Manish, you want to wrap this segment up?
Raju, 1 second. Mr.
Please.
Kashwan has one quick question.
Sure, please do.
And he would like to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Prakash Kashwan. Ask your question, please. Well, I think we'll wait for him some other time. He's not ready, probably. Go ahead, Raju.
Yeah, Manish, unmute yourself.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you again for a wonderful session, Ajayji and all the workers. Raghu, we had them from Trivandrum and Tiruvalla giving us updates on the migrants issue. We also heard about many people who were asked that they want to go back to Kerala or go back to their villages or have their families join. And what we heard was they would rather have their families stay where they are at this point. Also, the question about the bamboo came in terms of the question was about how the government can help, and what Ajayji mentioned was that the government and the societies need to start popularizing those products, also working through the legal aspect of it, where the governments may need to provide some clarity on those issues. So that's what we heard here on terms of both the different presenters. And at this point, I will turn it over to my colleague, Raju, to take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Manish, and thank you, Kapil, for taking questions as people were talking. I just want to end by saying, for those of you who wish to know more about the work of rights, please go to hindusforhumanrights.org, and there is a section on the work that Rights has been doing recently under COVID, and see whatever you can do to help these workers. It would be greatly appreciated. I'd like to now introduce one of the voices you've been hearing in Hindi this morning, Vijayendra Kadalabal, who represents Hindus for Human Rights. He is in Bangalore, and he's going to take us to a different place in terms of looking at the overview of the labor rights in India, where we are, what are some of the loopholes, some of the problems that we need to address as a society. And he is going to take us through a presentation. Vijayendra, thank you for your earlier role in this conversation, and now it's all yours.
Thank you, Raju. I just want to ensure that my screen is visible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I want to take you all through is a journey trying to move from the Kerala-centric narrative to look at what's happening, including Kerala at the national level. In terms of the lockdown, we are entering the 67th, we are in the 67th day and still counting. I would like to remind the viewers to try to humanize the crisis. Let us try to humanize this entire crisis. And that's what we did in the first part. We tried to hear two voices from Kerala directly. But through these pictures also, I want you to try and place ourselves into these people's shoes. The image in the central part of the post is of a man who got to know about his dying son and is visibly seen grieving due to his inability to reach his village in Bihar. Once the image taken by the PTI photographer Atulya went viral, he was ensured assistance. He was able to reach back to his village, but like the Atulya rightly mentions it, he lost his son to the battle of life. He could not save the life. And these are just one story, and there are thousands of stories we are hearing each day as we listen to various narratives from both the mainstream media and also the parallel media. In terms of understanding the scale of the exodus, to see how many people are actually moving, this is being compared to, in terms of numbers and in terms of crisis, to what something we haven't seen post-independence. The biggest mass movement in terms of internal migration happened after independence, but after that we haven't seen this kind of a huge migrant exodus. India's informal workforce as per 2011 census is for 50 million, and currently it is estimated that 20% of them, which comes up to 20 to 25 million migrants, began making their way to villages in trains, buses, and on foot. And these are just estimates, but we are expecting that it's way more than what is being counted. The image in the left that you see is a heartbreaking story. We all know that probably have heard about the story of the child who is trying to wake his mother up, and this is probably not even the worst as many fear. What currently we are seeing is COVID, which was a COVID-19, a public health crisis, has now turned on into a humanitarian crisis. And this humanitarian crisis, we must understand, is purely man-made. Uh, we didn't give the people even time to reflect and try to reach avenues to go back to their places. Do they want to go back? It was a 4-hour window in which the lockdown started, and we are into day 67 and still counting. The estimates of deaths are very non-COVID related deaths, people who have lost their lives due to hunger, due to accidents on roads, due to lack of food in trains, range between 200 to 600. I'm talking about officially quoted numbers by some researcher. But in real, there are estimates which go beyond, way beyond this. Railways officially state the figures of 80 people who have lost their lives on Shramik Express itself. These are not people who were killed on the tracks, but these are people who were in the train. There are narratives which claim of trains running for 5 days to cover a journey which had to take maximum 24 hours, and people were given just 1 day's meal. This is the scale of the outreach which the government is able to reach. In terms of breaking down the issues beyond lockdown, there have been what we are witnessing across the country is industries have been lobbying with the government. I can give you a case study from Karnataka. Once the second lockdown was announced, Karnataka government made an announcement that there will be trains made exclusively available for these migrant laborers to go back. The next day, the CM had to meet the real estate lobby, and he had to overturn his decision and had to cancel the train, telling that there will be availability made for these people to work. They will be ensuring that these people will get their rights preserved. Thanks to a counter uh, uh, backfire from Twitter and all social media accounts, the government finally managed to launch the train again. So this lobbying is clearly visible, which is making the government go back and forth on its decision and places the pedestal of the decision to be anti-poor rather than pro-poor. In terms of the central government initiatives, We all know of many people who donated to PM CARES funds. But something that we need to understand is that even today or yesterday, the central government gave a reply to Supreme Court that the PM CARES cannot come under right to information because it's not a public fund. So we don't know who's going to audit PM CARES. We don't know how much of it has been utilized till now. And the paradox is many companies who are donating lavishly to PM CARES, hoping that the funds will reach the people, are also firing their own employees. So in a way, this can be looked at carryover of what has been a directive approach from the government rather than decentralizing the ability to reach out to people. They're trying to centralize the power, and redistribution is a big problem in that case. On the backdrop, what is happening is in the name of labor reforms, we are seeing some disturbing news from various states. It started with the Uttar Pradesh cabinet, which approved an ordinance, Madhya Pradesh, which promulgated an ordinance, and states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, Uttarakhand, Himachal, Assam, and many more are now joining in. So labor is as an issue, labor falls under concurrent list. So there are more than 100 laws by state governments and 40 laws by central government, which ensure that basic rights like drinking water, minimum wage, hygienic conditions, facilities like toilet, these basic human rights and work rights approach, which ensure that we can at least provide a system where laborers and migrants are not exploited. These fundamental foundations are being eliminated. And in the name of relaxations, they have been curbed completely, ranging from 3 months to 3 years in many of these states. Uh, in terms of what are the voices which raise their concerns against this, even the labor wing of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh has been completely condemning these legal hindrances which the government is posing in name of labor reforms. More than 10 labor organizations from the country wrote a letter to ILO, International Labour Organization, and we had a letter from ILO which asked the Indian state to ensure that changes to Indian labor laws adhere to global standards. So ILO sees this as a concern. The Supreme Court, after so many petitions, finally took a suo motu cognizance on the May 26th and directed the state and central governments to ensure that the rights of the migrants are preserved, and they make free travel arrangement and food arrangements for these people who want to go back to their home. It took cognizance of multiple media reportage as well as activists who went and petitioned in the court. What has been unfortunate is the absence of the narrative across major mainstream media, barring a few exceptions. Most of the channels are still debating on why we should uh, boycott Chinese products, how locust, which is causing a great issue in agrarian sector, uh, is being fed from Pakistan. They're making it an India-Pakistan issue, a locust migration. So the major narrative in the mainstream media has not been covering these voices. It's only on platforms, very few platforms which are covering these, and they do not have wide viewership as well. So majority part of the country also might not be listening to these voices. So is it all doomsday, or do we have a very bad scenario at lookout? I would say no and yes, both. Yes, in terms of if we humanize the crisis, the amount of people who have been impacted, the visuals which are coming in are very disturbing. But at the same time, there have been huge participation from civil society. Government itself, the central government has accepted to the Supreme Court that in more than 13 states, the NGOs have reached out to more people for providing food more than the state governments themselves. So NGOs have shown a constant presence, but we need to understand they have the research crunches too. There have been innovative campaigns like Call Your MP being run. It was a campaign which was envisioned overnight, and people were asked to ring their respective MPs and tell their MPs, that member of parliament, that we are concerned about the migrant situation. We want you to act about the migrants in our city or in our constituency. And MPs have been following up on that. Actor Sonu Sood has been one of the voices in the Bollywood who has been very proactive in providing assistance. He has partnered with a couple of organizations and launched even a toll-free number. I personally have connected so many groups on this toll-free number where they are providing buses, trains, and even airplanes in many cases for people to reach home. They're also ensuring medical checkups and anything that is needed from the government in terms of clearances. Also, there have been examples of individual bureaucrats and decision makers who are, be it in the police, be it in the administration services, who have at various parts of the country, at their individual level, shown some individual capacity to be pro-poor. But in the longer run, what can the diaspora do to help? Many of you must be wondering. One thing might be, how can we promote the voices that we heard, the bamboo makers, how can we provide a market for them? But in terms of what we look at labor crisis in the long run, right after the COVID crisis or the lockdown at least subsides, the COVID is here to stay. Now we have a multiplied effect by the COVID with a humanitarian crisis, and we have cyclones, and we have a locust attack, which is probably one of the worst in the last 2 decades that we have seen. So huge amount of agricultural crop is going to be hampered across states. We have to organize voices at international platforms through campaigns, petitions, and letters, especially in the next 6 months, to advocate for free ration, universal public distribution system for these migrants, to ensure that labor rights are preserved. At an individual level, we can contribute when and where possible to volunteer for these campaigns or contribute to these campaigns, civil society organizations financially to assist migrants. Many of the activists like myself would clearly tell you today that it is more likely that your money will reach these people than going through the government routes, because it's too much of bureaucracy is being done. Because we are right now, we have a centralized power because we have invoked the Disaster Management Act, National Disaster Management Act, and states are curbed by using their own funds. For example, your Chief Minister relief fund is not coming under CSR law, but the PM CARES comes under CSR law. So you're being incentivized to provide money to central schemes where it takes more time to reach the people. So activists like me have been advocating for people to contribute to campaigns and civil society organizations. Similar to Ministry of External Affairs, which is a one-way portal for many of NRIs who are in crisis, because of which we have a one-day Bharat Abhiyan being launched, an operation to bring back migrants who are outside the country. We need to advocate for a system for India's internal migrants too. These are the points that I would like to highlight. I would like to leave you with reminder of the voices that you heard from Kerala, from both the centers, trying to we need to understand that there is a section of society which is trying to question people who are leaving to reach their homes. We need to understand that it is their choice. They had to have the choice to go back to their homes. They are also terrorized by the COVID. There are the livelihood issues. So if they want to go back, they have a right to move back. What we have done today is take away the option to travel, go back to their homes, meet their loved ones, and taken away the option of continuous access to food and basic necessities like food, which has resulted into a crisis at major stations and bus stops wherever across the country you can see. I would wrap it up here, and I would ask my panelist Raju to take over, and please reflect on these points which were shared. Yeah, Raju.
Yeah, Vijayendra, that was, thank you so much for this very clear presentation and also giving us food for thought in terms of what we can do. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay. I would hand the microphone back to Kapil to see if he...
audible?
Yeah, no. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. So, yes. I'll request Mr. Prakash Kashwan to ask his question now. I hope he's able to speak up.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please ask your question.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Take any questions if people have questions regarding the presentation or the overall.
All right,
go ahead, Mr. Kashwan.
Right. So I don't want to give a long biodata of myself, but just to say that I worked in the field of international development and specifically on questions of natural resource rights. So my suggestions and my questions come from this kind of deep engagement for over 2 decades. So I want to make one point and then sort of want to illustrate that point by talking about the question of bamboo rights. I really appreciated all the presentations and the fact that you were able to get together all of these migrant workers from different occupations. That's really commendable. And Vijay's presentation was also extremely informative. But I see, you know, and I've been engaged
That
with
was my
these
presentation. I hope I was able to shed some light at the macro level. If there are any questions, I would be willing to take.
Should I continue? I don't know what's going on. Right. So the you know, I think there's you know, hearing all of you talk about these issues, one feels that there's a greater need to do more engagement with other activist groups who've been working on these issues and who have worked for a very long time. So I feel as if, you know, the presentations were great. There's quite a bit of expertise that is available elsewhere in the civil society that can benefit these kinds of interventions.
I see a question from Manish Madan here. How seriously
Vijayendra?
presentation, Vijay, very informative and well about Twitter posts in reversing some of the decision. How seriously or regularly the noise on social media is monitored or taken up by the government in their decision making, if you are aware.
Vijayendra?
I just want to ensure I'm audible.
Yeah, Vijayendra, can I quickly intercede here? Mr. Kashwan made a point. I don't know if you were able to hear. I just want to be able to respond to him about some of the discussion that took place today and the enormous level of other activists and groups that are available to coordinate. And I just want to convey to him on behalf of my organization, Hindus for Human Rights, we are primarily focused on human rights issues, Mr. Kashwan. And at the same time, we realize that you cannot take away livelihood and other day-to-day issues from the larger human rights angle. And COVID has clearly brought us beyond just human rights into livelihood issues. So I take your point, and Hindus for Human Rights will certainly continue to act as a portal or a coordinating role in bringing organizations together that are working on livelihood and other issues. But I appreciate your comment. Let me give it back to Vijayendra to continue.
Could I just finish the point I was making? So,
yes,
you know,
yes,
I think I take your point about human rights, and, you know, my work has been at the intersection of human rights and development questions. So I fully understand it from all the different perspectives that you can imagine. The point being that, you know, for example, the discussion of bamboo workers, you know, that discussion today is severely incomplete and undermined without a reference to the rights that Adivasis and other forest dependent people enjoy under the Forest Rights Act. And so this whole question of, you know, government is not making us bamboo available in good quantity, it takes on a very different meaning if you look at it from within the perspective of Forest Rights Act. So I'm not saying so much just about the engagements, but I think, you know, some knowing about some of these basic questions in these different areas of rights could actually make your work really more effective. And I see Angana Chatterjee is part of your group, and she certainly knows all about you know, these kinds of questions. So I wonder, you know, where there's something sort of missing. But having said that, that was meant as a constructive suggestion. I really appreciate being able to hear workers' testimonies and to know about Ajay's work. So thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you. Yeah. Vijayendra.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I, for a brief moment, had one-way audio where I was able to speak and I couldn't hear anyone. I don't know if there were any questions which I could answer. I can see one question here from Manish Madan. So he asks how seriously or regularly the noise on social media is monitored or taken up by the government in their decision making, if you are aware. From what I have been reading and how I have been following this government, one thing that this government takes very seriously is about its image. When I say image, it's not about how the foreign media is speaking about them, because they have managed to delegitimize media, whether be it inside or outside, which is critical to them as anti-Hindutva and anti-India. But when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to something that grabs eye in public forums, they are very, very keen, and they do not want their image to be hampered at social at the social level in large groups. So having said that, even if we are talking about any campaigns, it has to be large scale, and it has to have people who are campaigning at various forums come together and bring in those numbers. It's not going to help us if we have retweets 10 times, 20 times. We are talking about thousands. But if you have a campaign which will speak to the government indirectly, or which will bring to the notice conventions at the ILO or international human rights organizations or the UN, then definitely any kind of attraction from that side will get government response, even at a minimalistic level. So I would say yes, they do take their image very seriously, and with whatever limited ability, it's one of the options that advocates should definitely seek. I don't know if there are any other questions.
Yeah, there is another question by Ms. Lotika Singha, and I think Ajay should answer this question. So one of the workers made a comment about their children and the school fees, right? So Ms. Singha wants to know that isn't a government school freely available to those children, and at least below 14 years? And are they having to send their kids to private school? Because right now there is summer vacation for schools in India, but the schools are going to open in June, and children's education will become a primary concern. Ajay, do you know the ground situation? Why do they need to pay fees in schools at all?
It's very critical. The schools are going to open day after tomorrow online.
Well, online.
Now that's become a big question, because I guess even if you look at the latest statistics of the telecom department, the internet density is not even 50%. Though even the rural area, there's only 9% of the villages in India have broadband. Now the government keep on talking about both the central and the state and the HRD. Everybody talking about the online education. Now, what extent that's going to help the most marginalized and the poor children is a big question. We have no idea about this. Government now saying that they'll be using the TV channels as a medium of instruction. And I've seen today the Kerala government allotted from the first standard to 12th standard students, the timing is in a half an hour each to each class. Now how it's help children, and I think it's a complete chaos now. Nobody has no idea. They instantly talking about the online, but online is not really. That the digital divide we have in this country is huge. So somebody, I really don't know how to answer that question. If I understand that there are doctors and the medical professionals saying that we will be continuing with the COVID effect at least for a year, definitely for a year. So there is a greater chance a generation of those who can't afford the online education may drop from the education system. That's a serious concern, really serious concern.
And I think to add to that, there are states in India like Jammu and Kashmir where the government has restricted high bandwidth internet for totally different reasons. So I don't think online education will work on a very slow 2G connection.
And it's become extremely expensive for a 7th standard student. A major online education application charging 60,000 rupees. Who can afford it?
I have a question for Vijayendra.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the, you talked about the sheer number of migrant laborers who are trying to find their way home. And we also talked about how NGOs have stepped up to the plate to fill the vacuum left by lack of action by the government. But now latest news that I heard is the government is actually prohibiting private parties from feeding the people on the train, and they want to do it themselves. Number one. Second, the impression is being created where, well, now things are under control, buses are being arranged for people to be picked up along the highways. Uh, where do you think it really is? Is there any idea how many people are still trying to make their way home?
It is very difficult to actually calculate how many are in the roads, how many have reached, how many are still in the wait list, because there is no one channel of mobility. People who have registered for train, if their numbers are not coming, they are taking their bags and hitting the roads. In terms of food on the train, the government has been claiming since the beginning that they are the ones who will ensure that people are provided food, because it's very difficult to entertain food from outside and ensure that it stays good at the throughout the journey. So the guidelines were that you can get your blanket or whatever, a mask is mandatory, but food will be given by the government. This was the understanding for anybody boarding the train. But the reality is that most of the trains did not have any kind of catering, and these are one end to another end trains. They are going to start off from Bangalore, for example, and reach the destination in Bihar. They're not going to stop on any stations midway. These are special trains. Their routes are being changed because of lack of permit in certain states. So there's no other way for these people on the train to get even water, forget about food. So the major narrative that we have been hearing from people whom we ensured board trains is that they are going more than 24 hours without water, without food. At best, what we are able to do is provide them food at the station before they board the train. Just today, me and a couple of my friends who are volunteering, we managed to pull in some funds and put it across to a group of 1,000 people in Tamil Nadu who have trained tomorrow. We were able to give them meals today, but we are not allowed to give them foods for the train. So we just hope that the government is able to provide them some food on the train. In terms of numbers, there is absolutely there is no way to calculate. All the states have to take up surveys in their respective states and districts and employ huge skilled people to understand how many people have returned, how many are willing to come back, how many plan to stay. Experts have been telling that we need to open Rega scheme, go for plantation drives. That will be a good livelihood mechanism for these people, not just in urban areas, but also in not just in rural areas, but also extended to urban areas. But it's really impossible to calculate and find out how many of them actually reached and made it. Even people who are boarding, we are hoping that they will reach the homes and trying to stay in contact. That's the ground reality. But there is an image being set up that everything is all right. If you look at the railway minister's Twitter handle, if you look at the labor minister's Twitter handle, they are giving a picture that everything is all right. I would ask anybody staying in India to step out of their homes and just look at their bus stand, their stations. You will see a different India than on Twitter.
Okay, we have reached the 90-minute point. I would like to find out if anyone else has a question, a quick question question and then we can wrap up. Okay. Thank you so much for to all the participants for making this a good exchange. I know on some issues we have probably just scratched the surface, as Mr. Kashwan has pointed out. I think the key thing is for us to all go back and see where we can help. I'd like to thank all the people behind the scenes, monitoring the calls and people that introduce. Only thing I want to end with is, Mr. Ajay, we could not get the names of all the participants in the two locations. I think they are the ones that we should end by thanking. If you could kindly repeat their names and so we can all say thank you to them. But before I leave, I also want to remind you that tomorrow at the same time, we're going to continue this conversation. If Kerala was an example of perhaps a better run situation for migrants, Delhi is whole another story. And tomorrow we are going to also hear from workers in Delhi, moderated by our own Akriti Bhatia and Giri. And that's the first segment tomorrow. But the second segment that I'm particularly really looking forward to is to hear from my friend Rajiv Kandelwal, who heads up Ajivika Bureau, which has been representing labor rights for a long time, especially in the states of Gujarat and Rajasthan. And I've had a chance to work with him in the past. So please don't miss that. I think he is a person who can really give a larger picture in terms of where we think the labor movement is going to be heading post-COVID. So with that, if I may hand it back to Ajay to thank on our behalf all the workers by name, if possible. Ajay?
Yeah, we have Trivandrum, we have Dilip Roy, Ajibar Ali, Gurudesh Or. And from Tiruvalla, we have Rekhu, Suma, and two more. I'm sorry, I don't know their name also. But let me. I'll text you.
Please, on all of our behalf, please, Raghu and Ajay ji, please convey our thanks to them for participating and hope their future is a little better than what it has been thus far. Vijay, Kapil, Manish, Urmila, Shravya, everybody behind the scenes. Thank you all and hope to see all of you tomorrow and perhaps even more people tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.